Welcome back with another assembly video. Today is gonna be a special assembly video because we are gonna talk about GBBR conversion for ASG Bren 805. ASG made Bren 05 in electric version. Normally there would be V3 gearbox inside, but our AR grip here should be that giveaway that it's indeed not inside of it. Before we start, let's talk about the conversion itself. You can notice I have AR grip lower here, also as buffer tube stock adapter. These are not needed. You can run this kit with OEM CZ stock or OEM lower. But hey, if you are getting rid of the Wi-Fi gearbox, why not to get rid of the OEM grip and use any other AR grips? These are basically only main modifications you have to do to your body. You will have to print a new magwell, but it doesn't affect your OEM one. And also you would have to drill and tap M4, M3, whatever suits you, hole into the bear block. But as you can see, it's hidden. You can't really see it. So that's like any only permanent change to the body. So let's start. So first of all, you remove your front pin and you separate your upper and lower receiver. We will start with the upper. Now the rear pin, and you will remove your stock, in my case 3D printed buffer tube adapter. As I mentioned, the kit will work with your OEM stock, but this assembly is gonna be a bit different. Before you remove your OEM stock, press this button, because not only it would separate these two blocks, the mounting block and the stock itself, but it will push our recoil rod more in, so we can remove the stock. Now, when the stock is removed, let's remove the rear sling loop. This allows us to remove our recoil spring assembly, which consists of a front solid rod with 3D printed cap glued on, and our metal tube, which is then connected using this pin in this retention block. These are just let's say rubber buffers, and this is Poseidon universal recoil spring. Normally you would have like special shim which comes with this spring instead of these rubber buffers, but I was trying some things, so I use these. I'm not gonna tell you these dimensions from top of my head, because let's say this is the prototype, so dimensions of these rods might change, and it will be all written down in your BOM. Now we will push our bolt carrier to the back, and we will remove our charging handle. Now, this is slightly different charging handle than you would have in your AEG. The difference here is that this black part is original OEM part, and the rest of this is made from metal. It's fairly easy shape. You can make it by yourself, as I did, or you can print this, or third option is you can print the whole assembly. I recommend you to print it in the metal because it could crack otherwise. The OEM part is screwed on an M3 screw to the printed one. Once you remove a charging handle, you can remove the bolt. Now, before we take a peek on the bolt, let's talk more about the upper. So I mentioned that there is a small set screw. To access the set screw, we will have to remove our bottom wrist rail. Now here is the set screw. In my case, I used M3 set screw. You can use any other screw, that's up to you. And we will remove our hop-up unit. So this is our hop-up unit. Its design probably will change in the future. Right now it's a simple PDC hop-up. I'm not gonna disassemble it, but it's working on a simple principle. You put a GBBR barrel in it, push it in, secure it using one set screw on the top and a second one on the bottom. Also, before you do that, you put a shimming ring around the barrel. You can see it here, so the barrel stay in the center. Then you use those mentioned set screw. These are supposed to be M3 set screw in thread inserts. And then you use another M3 screw, which is not set screw. It's this one, which will actually set your hop. As I mentioned, it's TVC style hop unit. So once this is done and this screw hole is tapped, you just insert the barrel inside of the gun. There is a slot in the barrel and slot in the hop-up unit. This screws in, then you screw in your set screw, and this is the upper. Now the bolt carrier group. So we are using VE AR styled AR-15 nozzle. The installation is pretty straightforward. I'm not gonna disassemble it, so I'm gonna tell you how to assemble it. You put a nozzle inside of the bolt carrier and you secure the nozzle spring using 3mm thick pin right here. Then you're gonna insert this rectangular tab which prevents the rotation of the nozzle, and you will secure it in place using 2 screws. There is another retention tab which you insert from the top. This tab inside have an M3 sized hole which you can screw in it, so you can install it more easily. Then again 2 screws will secure it in place. Then you unscrew your screw which you used to install the tab. So this is our bolt carrier. Be sure to lube it. The installation is easy. First, bolt carrier in, then goes the charging handle. It's ambidextrous, so right or left, it's up to you. I'm gonna choose the left. Then I insert my recoil spring assembly and rear sling loop. That's it. Now, if you assembled and printed it correctly, this is what should happen when you charge the gun. The nozzle should stay in the hop-up chamber until all the travel distance is depleted, and then the bolt carrier will take it with it. So as you can see, nozzle is still in the chamber, still. Now it moved, and because of the spring, it just snaps into its position. This is how it should look for, let's say, the best seal. Now let's quickly add the bottom rail. So we can take a look at the lower receiver, which is place where the most things is happening. To install the stock, push the recoil assembly slightly in and install the stock with its retention pin. Now let me clean my hands because they are dirty from the lube and to the lower. So as I mentioned, you can use your OEM lower, but you will have to print the magwell to fit your GBBR magazine. I already talked about the VEAR nozzle. So yes, this is VE system. We are using VEAR magazines. Now there is gonna be only one difference in between the parts. If you want to use AR grip lower to be correct, or the OEM one, the difference is gonna be in the trigger housing or fire control group housing, if you want to call it that. The trigger spring tab is gonna be same. Everything is gonna be same. Just this one slightly orange part is gonna be a bit longer for your OEM ASG lower. The reason for that is there have to be a space for the dovetail grips, and normally the hole for this dovetail would protrude inside here, so, and inside of the the housing, so it's shorter, but I would say it's more lore accurate. On On the original one, original Bren 805, we would also use this hole as a pin that holds the tap in its place, but for now we are just using this screw to allow you to use more janky trigger springs, for example, as I did, which is just a spring wire, not a spring plate. Now, first we have to remove a magwell. So remove the side pin. Now take a screwdriver and remove screw that holds the bolt catch, and that's removed. You can slide the magwell down. Now the magwell. This magwell is using parts from your OEM AR magwell. It's using original right catch, spring, and this little tab, but there is printed left side magazine catch. I think you can get away with FDM printed one, but you can print the one in the metal. The assembly is same. Then we have M3 screw insert in here and modified bolt catch. On the AEG version, the bolt catch does nothing. Here it actually does something, but it had to be slightly edited. So as you can see, there is like a little slope sanded into the part, and also the these suckers, these wires, they are slightly different. So normally there would be just one going through. Now I have simple, let's say U-shaped wires, each coming on different side to keep this sanded plane free. Why is it sanded at an angle? It's because on the bolt catch it's in contact with this slope. So when you push on the bolt catch, it will push this actual bolt catch up. So if you press on the bolt catch button, it will slide in and push this upwards. So let me shine some light on this. Now it should be visible how it's done. Don't worry about this modification. If you want to ever convert it back to the AEG one, this will not affect how the gun works, because, well, on the AEG one it's not used. So now to the lower. First of all, we are gonna remove our screw that holds trigger spring in place. It's long screw. Dimensions of each screw or pin is gonna be mentioned in a bill of materials or somewhere in the description. Then we will remove our selector lever pin. We will remove only the right side. if you are starting to convert this, you would have to remove both of them from the AG lower, just because they each have its part that's already in place. So when you remove lever pin, remove the lever and push on the lever rod. Never keep, just pushing on the lever itself, because there is a risk that you will break the printed rod. It should be printed in metal. I hadn't a good experience with the plastic ones, because as you might see here, those are rather thin for the FDM print. With this, we will remove our selector disc. And now we will remove the screw that also hold the grip if you are using AR grip, but if you are using the OEM one, it does just hold the housing inside. Before we do that, I will remove our AR grip just to show you what's inside. Of course, if I found a correct screwdriver bit. Here we go. Now we have to remove your typical M3 AG grip screws. You can use all 4 of these. I'm using just 2 of them. It's enough in my opinion. Now, with the grip removed, what you can see here is an adapter. It's rather scuffed because it's a prototype part, but in theory this will allow you to use AG grips, and if you would like to use real steel grips, you could just swap this part for another adapter. You can see there are slots for M3 nuts on each side, and also for I believe that's M5 nut for the screw that holds it in place, sandwiched with our fire control group housing. So we will remove this too. Once this is off, remove the nut, slide the adapter out of the lower, and you can remove our fire control group assembly. Now, what's next? So you can remove the middle pin, which should be 3 millimeters thick, and then remove a trigger pin, which should be 4, if I recall correctly. Again, should be mentioned in the bill of materials. Now we can remove the hammer. On the hammer there is a bearing which is made on the lathe. I think you can print it in a 100% infill, but yes, something that's slippery, spudgy or something like that. On the hammer there is a trigger spring which is homemade from 1 mm thick trigger spring wire. It has how many loops? 2 and something loops. Again, let me shine some light on it. And the trigger bearing is held in place by a screw, M3 screw. Maybe you already noticed some of these are metal printed. I highly recommend you to print all fire control group parts in a metal, and also the bolt catch. I tried use I tried to use FDM printed parts. They don't last long enough. You could get away maybe with the plastic hammer, but not with the trigger or the semi-sear. Next, we can remove the trigger. Again, a pin that's 3 mm thick. There is a spring inside. I think I used pen spring. It don't have to be stiff. Like, its only purpose is to push our sear up. I also glued it in place for easier installation. Our sear. If you print this in metal, there's gonna be a small rip right here, which you are supposed to sand to get this and the trigger work correctly. Because my part got slightly warped here, and I had to shim it, which is not optimal. So I add a small rip, which will allow you to correct the position of this. If it's too forward, it's not gonna work during the semi action. If it's too far away, then also that's not gonna work. It's not gonna catch the hammer. So you will have to play with it. It's better than, to have to shim it using some plastic or something. So these. Now what's left here is a valve knocker. It looks like a AR-15 valve knocker, but it's kind of special. They have this connector lever in a different place, which is on the left. Again, I see the light's not optimal, so normally when you press the knocker in, the lever is gonna hold it in till it's pressed. So let's take that apart using this 2 mm thick pin. So what's inside? The lever itself with its spring, it's supposed to be rather stiff spring. Now M3 set screw at the bottom of the housing will allow us to remove valve knocker housing from the fire control group housing. Here there is the housing itself. with knocker. So how does this work? On the right side of the knocker here, there is a soft small spring, which when you pull the knocker up, will force it down. It don't have to be strong. The reason for this is when the hammer is pressed, and for example there is no gas in the magazine, it will just dry fire. Yes, you remove the magazine and you want to stick it in, but the knocker is already extended. So what this do is when you push the magazine, it will push the knocker out of its way, and once you cock the gun, reset the fire control group and the valve knocker, and goes like this, and the pusher will get pushed down so it can engage the magazine valve. Every piece of the metal printed part that engages or slides on another part have to be sanded down and polished. I don't know if it's visible under these light conditions, but they are kind of shiny. That's because a rough surface will limit how things slide over each other. It will introduce some resistance in the system, which is not optimal. How you are supposed to print this part? You are supposed to ideally print it under angle like this. In my case, that's exactly what I did. I placed it on this angled plane to get ideal conditions for cavities inside. What's pushing this valve knocker assembly inside? There's this small spring here. I believe it's from a lighter maybe. It really have to be pretty soft spring. Just enough to push the valve knocker inside. Because if you use the strong spring, it will introduce force on the hammer and on the valve in opposite way, opposite direction than you want it. Let me explain. If there is a stiff spring, it will and the hammer will impact the assembly. Some of the energy from the strike will be absorbed by the spring, and you don't want that. You want every bit of the energy from the hammer be transferred to the valve and the magazine. So this is in place, secured by the M3 set screw at the bottom. Then we will assemble our disconnector. So spring inside first, then this lever and the pin that holds in place. To test its function, push it in, should click, and when you push on the disconnector lever, it should just allow the knocker assembly slide in just like this. So push it forward and let's install our trigger assembly. Trigger and its semi-automatic sear. So that's in place. Then the hammer. Just like this. When that's in place, add this third pin, which will limit movement of the trigger. Now this is done. Add a spring wire. This looks like I used 0.5 millimeter thick spring wire, which is secured by a small screw here. What does this do? It will push our bolt catch down. So when this is done, insert it in your lower, either AR grip one or the OEM one. If you are using AR grip, let's install our grip adapter. Add the grip. Now the trigger spring. As you can see, I used spring wire bent into the kind of L shape. It's not ideal. You can do it, but it's not ideal. By the time the kit is published, there should be sketch how to make your spring plate. I don't know if you can order the original one for real Bren 805, but there's gonna be a sketch of the dimensions of the spring plate. Take M3 nut, insert it here in this slot. You can see the slot there. Take your spring, put it on the left side of the trigger, I believe. Come on, it's visible. And sandwich it in its place using this M3 screw and this gray tab. Now, when that's done, let's try how does our system work. So I press the trigger, cock the hammer. It should be held in place by our semi-sear. When I slowly release the trigger, semi-sear will disengage and trigger will engage. Now, when I press the trigger, you can see the sear is in its, the semi-sear is in its position that it's, you know, blocked by this part of the hammer. You want it like that because when it's, and the trigger is pressed and you cock it, it have to allow the sear catch the hammer. It have to be like this because you want the sear to be as close to the hammer as possible without it interfering during, you know, the final release. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you'll get it while assembling it. Now let's try it with our valve knocker. Everything is good. If your hammer is getting stuck in position like this, there is easy 3-step solution for this. Make sure this part of the hammer and its corresponding part on the knocker is sanded and polished. Second, that they are looped, and third, that the spring that's pushing the knocker assembly inside is not strong. That it is soft. It's strong just enough to, you know, push it inside when you hit this connector lever. If it's too strong, it's too strong for its good, and, you know, it will jam the system. Now, to installation of the magwell, you insert it just, you know, in the half. Then you take your knocker, my bad, your bolt catch. You put it on the spring I mentioned earlier, and then you can push the magwell all the way in. Here goes the M3 screw and our magwell pin. To be honest, installation of this bolt catch, sorry again, is like maybe it's the hardest part of this kit, because first, this spring wire can't be again too strong, because it would overpower our last BB lever on the magazine. You don't want to overpower this. Normally when you insert the magazine, it should lift as it did our bolt catch. Okay, so you can see. Also, that's not that hard to get. Also, you want to work in bolt catch button, so it have to also elevate when you push the button. If there is any resistance or the angle on the bottom is not right, it will not work exactly as it should. So keep that in mind. It's the most complicated part of the assembly. You might make last BB bolt stop working, but to get both button and the last BB functionality working, it's not exactly easy. Now, I would forgot about our safety. We are using OEM safety with this OEM, you know, spring and ball detent here. So you put left lever with its rod assembled assembled in. Then you introduce the selector disk, slide everything together and connect right side lever. Nothing complicated. Be delicate with those pins so you don't break your selector rod. That happened to me in the past, and you just don't want to do that. So let's try it. Trigger doesn't move. No, it does. When the gun is cocked, you can switch to the safety. Keep in mind, you can't cock the gun that's on a safety, because the trigger is not gonna move. Keep that in mind, especially if you are for some reason using plastic trigger, because you're gonna break them. Now, when the lower is assembled again, we can take our upper, install it on the lower, so back first, then the front, and our front pin. Mine is damaged, so we will secure it with a screw from other side. Well, that's just specific for my case. If there is any movement in the lower, like front and rear movement, unscrew these screws on both sides, space everything correctly, then tie it down. It can happen. There is some room for the movement under these screws, because the holes in the upper receiver are bigger. Now you wanna try the system by dry firing it, so we will select fire. We will charge the gun. Everything should be smooth. You can see it's actually really smooth if everything is printed, assembled and looped correctly. Now we will check the mag well. We will be looking for our valve knocker. It should be inside of the receiver. Now we will press trigger. We can see that the valve knocker extended itself. You will be still holding the trigger. Now the charging and movement will be slight. There's gonna be some pressure from the hammer applied to the bolt carrier, so it's gonna take more force to charge it. You will charge it, release it. You will be still holding the trigger, and we are gonna check our knocker again. It's hidden, perfect. Then we will release the trigger and press it again. Everything seems to be working. Now I'm gonna demonstrate what you are gonna supposed to do. So gun on the safety, and we will try to charge it. You can't. So fire, charge, then you can push on the safety, and since the hammer is being held down, you can move the bolt as you wish. So let's try the bolt catch feature. I will press the button when the carrier is back. Seems to be working. To disengage the bolt catch, you will just charge the gun. And now, of course, we will try the last BB feature. You can see it's working just fine. You can see the magazine is kind of tight in the mag. Well, I like it that way. If you don't, there are some tabs you can send down, one at the front, one at the back, and these on the sides. If you don't know which of these or by how much, insert the magazine a few times, remove it a few times, and by the wear you will see which tab to send down. So that's that. There seems to be a gas in the system, so I will disconnect the last BB function from the magazine, insert it, charge the gun, and try it. Everything seems to be working, so back to the safe. Almost I would forget on how to, set your hop up. So what you are supposed to do is pull the charging lever to the back, then take your L-shaped Allen key and you would put it, inside of the charging handle slot and edit and set your hop up to whatever you want. You could also drill a hole into the receiver from the top, but I don't prefer it that way. I want my 805 body untacked. So lever back, put the Allen key in, and you can edit the screw height. That's it. I believe that's everything important about assembly of GBBR conversion kit for Bren 805 made by ASG. And well, see you with something different. Bye.